Treasure hunters are considered the pinnacle of all professions in this world where the strong rule. They specialize in searching for and discovering ruins and treasure temples scattered everywhere. This profession brings immense wealth and fame, but also risks one's life at any moment. The reason is that hunters frequently face monsters called phantoms. The main character is a young man named Cry Andri. Today, he is attending a recruitment interview for new members of the Strange Grief Guild, one of the most influential organizations in the Kingdom of Jabrudia. This guild operates through multiple teams that collaborate and support each other. In this profession, it's very difficult to progress far if acting alone. That's why most hunters aspire to join a truly powerful team. Among the people waiting in line for interviews, a girl named Ruta strikes up a conversation with Cry. She mentions she has reached level 3 and wants to join to have a chance to hunt treasures in the White Wolf Cave. While they are chatting, a man named Greg Chen approaches with a contemptuous attitude toward her strength. According to him, at a top-tier place like Strange Grief, a level 3 hunter is nothing more than a grain of sand in the desert. Hearing this, Ruta becomes angry and almost gets into a fight with the despicable man. Fortunately, security staff intervene just in time. Afterward, Cry and Ruta enter the meeting hall. Ruta is quite overwhelmed as this is her first time witnessing so many hunters gathered in one place. At the central table sits the Ark Brave team led by Rodden. Though only 6 people, they have enough power to conquer even level 7 treasure temples. Therefore, this team is considered one of the strongest groups participating in this recruitment. Meanwhile, right next to their table is an empty table that makes Ruta curious about who it belongs to. Just then, Greg steps forward and introduces it as the table for the Strange Grief team. As the founder of the First Step Guild, Cry understands this team better than anyone. That team consists of his childhood friends. Strange Grief comprises young men and women with superior strength, respected by people as the greatest hunter team in the capital. The reputation of Strange Grief is so great that many solo hunters always aspire to join this powerful team. Suddenly, a red-haired young man named Rupert appears in the crowd with an arrogant demeanor. He boldly declares before the entire hall that he will become the strongest hunter. Although only at level 4, he is extremely conceited and looks down on other hunters. This arrogance immediately irritates many people, including a female hunter named Tino. Tino coldly asserts that only she deserves to join Strange. Ignoring all attempts to stop her, she decides to teach the arrogant man an unforgettable lesson. As the two prepare to fight, the crowd gathers around, cheering non-stop. Only Cry senses something wrong and advises Ruta they should leave. Meanwhile, Rupert ignites flames on his great sword, and Tino also draws her knife, ready to fight. Rupert charges forward with a powerful slash. However, at that moment, Tino suddenly sees a familiar face. She immediately abandons the fight and rushes to stand in front of Cry. Ark also steps forward to introduce Cry as the leader of First Step, as well as the leader of Strange Grief. The entire hall is shocked, unable to believe that the guild leader appears so unassuming. Although Cry has been recognized as level 8 and receives respect from many hunters, he actually always feels incompetent and useless. Years ago, when Strange Grief first arrived at the capital, they continuously achieved unprecedented feats. Becoming treasure hunters was the childhood dream of the entire group, except for Cry. He doesn't possess the superior strength of his 5 companions and always feels inferior when standing beside these brilliant talents. Many times Cry wanted to leave the team, but all 5 friends firmly refused. Instead, they elected him as their leader. And so, Cry became the leader of the most powerful hunter team, although he never truly believed he deserved it. Back to the present, he appears desperate when hearing excessive praise, especially the worship from Tino. She is actually a student of Liz, Cry's childhood friend. Afterward, Ark agrees to let Cry choose a new member for his team. However, Rupert continues to cause trouble despite the security staff's intervention. Instead of getting angry, Cry is impressed by this recklessness. He takes out a ring and announces that if Rupert can grab it, he will be given a chance to join. But just as Rupert gets the ring, he immediately receives a powerful kick from Tino that sends him flying. The ring slips from his hand and rolls away. In an instant, the entire hall falls into chaos as people rush to fight over it, resembling a market brawl. Meanwhile, Cry calmly returns to the base as if nothing happened. The next day, the incident of the wrecked hall becomes headline news. The deputy guild leader Eva informs that the management council has been convened to investigate. The Management Council, or fully called the Hunter Management Association, is the organization that oversees all hunters in the country. Moreover, the council has sent a direct message to Cry, requiring him to report to headquarters. Cry is apprehensive because Gark, the head of the council, is known to be extremely strict. Cry makes the excuse that his disguise equipment is broken, so it's inconvenient to go out. This is an item that can help users change their appearance in an instant. However, Eva immediately objects, arguing that no one would bother to assassinate him, so why change appearances? So Cry is forced to go to the council to apologize directly to Gark. There, he bows his head and earnestly begs for forgiveness, admitting that he was the one who sparked the chaos. Gark agrees to forgive Cry on the condition that his guild must participate in a punishment game. The punishment game is what hunters call missions that everyone avoids. This is because they offer too little benefit while having a high risk level. At this point, Cry has no choice but to accept a mission. After careful selection, he finally chooses one at the lowest level, a level 3 rescue mission. Contrary to Cry's initial thoughts, this is actually an extremely difficult mission. Returning to the base, Cry is even more shocked to find that Ark has gone out. Tino then boasts that she got the ring. Cry takes this opportunity to assign her the mission from the council. Hearing this, Tino immediately runs away. She's not stupid enough to accept any punishment games. Cry instantly activates the dog chain equipment to drag Tino back to the base. At this point, there's no other option but to accept the mission with displeasure. Cry now realizes the mission is not as easy as he thought, so he decides to form a team including Ruda, Rupert, Greg, and Tino to carry it out. Recalling many years ago when Strange Grief first arrived at the council to register, Cry was hesitant about whether to enter or not. Meanwhile, the red-haired young man had boldly introduced himself as the world's strongest swordsman. Right after that, Liz also entered, claiming to be the world's strongest thief. The confidence of these two friends gave Cry the courage to register the name and symbol for the team. He immediately saw this as an opportunity to choose a terrible name, hoping to make everyone disgusted enough to kick him out. Initially, all 5 friends did criticize it harshly. However, when he suggested leaving the group, they immediately changed their attitude. Surprisingly, the despised name later became the #1 symbol associated with the group. Back to the present, Greg still can't believe that the scholarly young man is actually the leader of Strange Grief. After all, Cry is honored with the nickname Strange Grief, a super hunter of level 8. However, Cry himself doesn't feel comfortable with that title. Rupert loudly criticizes, asserting that such a wimpy person couldn't possibly be a level 8 hunter. Tino immediately scolds Rupert, saying he's just a frog at the bottom of a well, too incompetent to see the true power of the guild leader. Tired, Cry changes the subject back to the rescue mission they need to perform. Rupert still appears annoyed and firmly refuses to participate. In contrast, Greg has begun to believe that Cry is truly powerful, so he happily agrees to join. This mission takes place in the White Wolf Cave, so Ruda also agrees to participate. Thus, temporarily, the team has 3 members. Just as Cry is about to leave him out, Rupert once again loudly issues a challenge. If he wins, he will accept joining the group. Hearing this, Cry agrees, but the one who fights is not him but team leader Tino. The contest between the two begins shortly after. Tino displays her inherent confidence to the point of not needing to use weapons. Those words make Rupert feel insulted, and he also decides to discard his Inferno sword to fight bare-handed. Cry, observing from outside, thinks this red-haired guy is truly foolish. How could a swordsman abandon his sword? The match hasn't officially begun, but the outcome is almost clear. As soon as the match starts, Tino immediately throws a punch as fast as the wind. Rupert manages to dodge, but immediately after, he takes a kick straight to the face. He tries to counterattack, but in just a moment, he's caught in a neck lock between Tino's thighs. Rupert struggles, only to receive another chop to the groin that knocks him out on the spot. In his pain, memories of the past suddenly flood back. Tino tells Rupert to stand up and fight with his sword, but out of pride, he firmly refuses. Unexpectedly, Cry asks if it was because of the vast difference in strength with his teammates that he left his old team. Cry claims to understand that feeling because he has been in a similar situation. However, unlike Rupert, he has never abandoned his teammates. Hearing this, Rupert is stunned, with fear rising in his heart. If the members of Strange Grief are already so powerful, then what level of strength does Cry possess? At this point, Cry decides to show off a bit to make the young man submit willingly. He places his hand on the Inferno sword, and immediately flames burst forth fiercely, burning the surrounding space. Rupert is dumbfounded, unable to believe that Cry can control fire so easily. Witnessing this display of absolute power, Rupert bows his head and agrees to join. Mana Materialio is the foundational substance that forms the core of the world. It is an invisible flow that spreads everywhere, and is also the origin of the formation of treasure temples that carry great power. The White Wolf Cave is one of those treasure temples, home to a species of ghost wolves called Silver Moon. Eva expresses concern when Cry assigns such a difficult mission to those 4 people. But only now does Cry reveal that the way he made the Inferno sword burst into flames was by using a special artifact. He admits that he's not exceptionally skilled but possesses numerous tactics. He always prepares various artifacts to deal with all difficult situations. However useful they are, after use, they need to be recharged with magical energy. And the task of recharging, of course, falls to his subordinates, as Cry can't do it himself. While sitting and waiting, he hears about the terrifying power of the phantoms dwelling in the White Wolf Cave. Cry is clueless because he doesn't know anything, to the extent that he doesn't even know about a level 5 team led by Rodon that has been reported missing nearby. Cry realizes that he has given Tino's team a mission beyond their capabilities, essentially sending the entire group to their deaths. Because of this, Cry decides he must risk his life to save the 4 of them. Meanwhile, Tino's group is advancing deep into the forest to approach the White Wolf Cave. Before that, the group had already written their wills, knowing the level of danger they were about to face. Nevertheless, Tino still absolutely trusts in the guild leader's risky decision, believing this is arranged to test them. At night, the group is greeted by a huge, extremely ferocious red wolf. Meanwhile, Cry is ransacking the secret room full of support artifacts to see if there's anything useful. After a search, he decides to bring out a sack as if he's about to move house. Eva is very surprised when the boss even brings along a slime created by Shichai. Cry makes excuses that he just took it by mistake, as who would bring such a dangerous thing outside? Afterward, Cry uses an artifact, a flying cloak, to rush straight to Tino's location. Eva worries because this thing has no brakes and cannot be controlled. Tino swings her sword, cutting a wolf in half. Rupert explains that his Inferno sword has completely run out of mana, so he can't shoot flames to attack. Meanwhile, Ruda is quite worried and suggests the team should retreat. Tino firmly objects, arguing that they can't just leave before facing the challenge. Besides, this is a mission that Cry entrusted to her. Tino boosts everyone's morale as they push forward. Guarding the cave entrance are dozens of large red wolves. Rupert proposes charging in to create a bloody path for everyone. Tino rejects this proposal. As team leader, she affirms her responsibility to bring the entire group back safely. Tino and Ruda will distract the enemies, while the other 2 will launch guerrilla attacks from behind. Through their seamless coordination, they eventually send all the wolves back to Mother Earth. Looking at this scene, Rupert recalls how he once abandoned his teammates because he considered them burdens. Only now does he realize how valuable team spirit is. The group continues to advance deeper into the cave. This time, they're greeted by a super gigantic boss. Tino encourages everyone, also realizing that they all seem to be people with psychological issues. That's why Cry assigned them to overcome this challenge here. Meanwhile, Cry is flying like a madman in the sky. He doesn't know how to make it stop, so he crashes headfirst into the cave. As for the White Wolf boss, it has devastating strikes. However, it has a weakness. Its head isn't armored. Tino recognizes this as her opportunity to finish off the opponent. The wolf shifts to attack, forcing Rupert into a difficult position. On the other side, Greg bravely rushes in to help but takes a hit and falls backward. The wolf continues to bring its axe down on Greg, but fortunately Ruda arrives just in time to save him. It's Tino's turn to counterattack. She moves quickly and nimbly, instantly approaching the wolf's head. Tino somersaults in the air and successfully stabs the back of its neck with tremendous force, bringing it down. Afterward, she takes out a recovery potion to heal herself. However, the team's joy doesn't last long as more wolves arrive. This time, there are 4 of them. Just when they thought they had defeated the boss, it turns out this was just the warm-up. At this point, Tino has no strength left to continue fighting, so she suggests the group choose to flee. However, a wolf immediately blocks their escape route. Greg and Rupert propose sacrificing themselves to create an opportunity for the 2 women to escape. They need to act now as this is the best solution available. Suddenly, Tino remembers Cry, which gives her more fighting spirit. Then everyone simultaneously attacks at Tino's signal. Ruta flies into the wolf's face to distract it. Tino takes this opportunity to unleash an energy blast from the killing ring. The wolf is hit and temporarily blinded. Rupert rushes in to attack but gets kicked away. In this dangerous situation, Cry arrives. The wolves initially tremble at the sight of him, but they soon regain their composure and swing their swords at him. The weight of the slash is blocked by a shield from the safing artifact. Cry begins to execute an attack with a gravitational storm with massive aftershocks. However, its damage is only enough to knock down the wolves, not harm them. Cry appears calm on the outside, but is extremely panicked inside. Who could have expected the enemy to be this strong? Pushed to the edge, Cry decides to use Shichai's slime. He throws the vial into the air and detonates it, creating a thick smoke that disorients the wolves. The group immediately rushes at full speed into a safe tunnel. Tino greatly admires Cry. When she was young, she was rescued from bad people by the strange grief team. Since then, in her eyes, Cry has been an absolutely wonderful person. To her, Cry is no different from a deity with absolute power and intelligence. Upon reaching safety, Tino immediately apologizes to Cry for not completing the mission. Ruta defends her, saying it's thanks to her that the group has survived until now. Cry understands this well and praises her for doing her best. The group then advances deeper into the cave under Cry's guidance. However, he's also confused about where he's leading everyone. This deep cave is like a maze challenging them. Cry's goal is to find a way out of the cave. However, the more they walk, the more lost they become. Tino believes the guild leader is leading them to another place. According to her analysis, the only way out is to go back to where the giant wolves were earlier. Cry is extremely confused after hearing this because only a fool would go back to that hellish place. So the group continues to move forward. Cry justifies that this trip is to help everyone train. Somehow, Cry accidentally leads the group to where Rodon's team is taking refuge. Cry is bewildered, not understanding why he's so lucky. Tino is still dreaming, thinking this was the guild leader's intention from the beginning. They quickly go to help the injured people. Cry modestly doesn't take credit for this. And indeed, he was just wandering aimlessly without knowing anything. This attitude makes everyone admire him even more. Ruta then gives everyone medicinal herbs while Cry takes care of the food. It turns out he owns a magical bag containing many delicious foods inside. Thanks to the bread and sausages from the guild leader, everyone enjoys a satisfying meal. With full stomachs, their fighting spirit rises. Rodon reveals that this enemy is at an incredibly terrifying level. It's a phantom wearing a skull that covers its face. People rumor that it's the curse of the silver moonlight that has possessed this treasure temple. That's why even level 5 hunters like him have absolutely no chance. Cry starts thinking of excuses. He believes that since he assigned Tino as team leader, she should continue to lead everyone in this mission. Tino immediately bows her head to accept the directive and leads the group gradually out of the cave. This also means they're about to face the monsters. Cry is extremely worried because he only has 5 protection rings left. So how can he hold off the enemies? While at an impasse, the phantom aggressively approaches, plunging the group into confusion. But unexpectedly, behind it is Liz, Cry's childhood friend. She moves with lightning speed. With just one kick, she sends the monster face first into the wall. Everyone is amazed as this is their first time witnessing such terrifying power. With Cry specifically, Liz behaves in a very friendly, endearing way. But with others, she's no different from a crazy demon. Liz is ready to raise her voice and be rough with anyone. The person who fears Liz the most is Tino, because she knows she has disappointed her master. When Rupert tries to speak up for his friend, he immediately gets kicked into the wall. Liz continues to question Tino about why she's so weak. Tino kneels and begs for forgiveness in panic, allowing Liz to freely scold her. Liz reveals her crazy nature, cursing Tino like a dog with the most toxic words. Cry calmly diffuses the situation by praising Tino for her efforts. Therefore, he hopes his friend can forgive her student. After hearing this, Liz softens somewhat but still says she'll deal with Tino later. While the group is in internal discord, the wolves return to avenge their master. They show even more bloodthirst than before. This action triggers Liz's crazy nature again. She puts on her mask and activates her strongest fighting instinct. The wolves begin firing 6-barrel guns at her. Liz moves at supersonic speed. She's so fast that she can see the bullet path and catch it with her bare hands. As a result, not a single bullet can touch her. Liz's heavy footsteps on the ground are enough to create tremors. However, instead of fighting the enemy, she chooses to continue scolding Tino. With such a pathetic weapon and still can't fight back, you might as well die. After thoroughly cursing, she finally returns to fighting. Liz leaps high and delivers a kick that splits a wolf's body in half. Another wolf with a knife rushes to stab her, but Liz stops it with her bare hands. She then dashes forward, kicks the monster into the air, and follows with an extremely powerful punch to its head, knocking it unconscious. Still not satisfied, she delivers hundreds more punches to pulverize the monster. She also doesn't forget to curse her useless disciple. Hearing her master's negative words, Tino bursts into tears. Cry deeply empathizes with Tino because he understands very well that, except for himself, the members of the Strange Grief team have worked incredibly hard to achieve what they have today. That's why, for Liz, Tino's efforts are still not enough. After a good beating session, Liz finally returns to normal. Cry steps forward to congratulate her on the victory. After returning from the mission, Rupert decides to give his sword to Cry. He also mentions that he will return to train from the beginning with his old friends. Rupert very much hopes that one day he can possess the terrifying speed like Liz. Recalling a year ago, Shichai personally came to give Cry her slime vial. She is an extremely talented alchemist. With her superior intelligence, Shichai is considered the brain of the Strange team. She warned that the slime is a weapon with great destructive power. If mishandled, it could burn down the entire capital. In the previous mission, Cry accidentally broke the slime vial. Despite searching extensively, he couldn't find any results. Cry calmly reconsiders everything carefully. He remembers that when he opened the vial, it was empty inside. This means the slime vial that Shichai entrusted to him had been lost before that. What he thought was slime was just a similar vial. The more he thinks about it, the more uneasy Cry feels, to the point where he can't eat or sleep well. He gradually becomes depressed and has no spirit to work. Eva suggests that Cry go to the management council to report the incident at the White Wolf Cave. He immediately evades the responsibility. Clearly, since Tino was the team leader, she should be the one to go. Eva informs him that Tino is currently busy training with Liz, so she can't go. Cry therefore decides to see how Tino is training. At the training room, Cry meets Sven, the leader of the Black Cross team, a team under Strange Grief. Sven informs him that the situation inside the training room is extremely serious. If Cry doesn't intervene, who knows what will happen to Tino's life. Cry naively thinks his friend is exaggerating, but everything unfolds exactly as Sven thought. Tino is being beaten severely by Liz. However, this still doesn't satisfy Liz. She displays an extremely scary, cold face. Liz demands her student to stand up. If she avoids training, don't blame why the sea is salty. Liz raises her leg, ready to take Tino's life, but Cry suddenly speaks up to calm his friend down. Thanks to this, Liz decides to stop her brutal action here. Surprisingly, Tino firmly grabs her master's leg and tries to prove she can still move. Cry is quite surprised when Tino puts on the Strange Grief mask. If the fighting spirit of her student has risen like this, Liz will continue. Cry panics and rushes outside to let the two of them continue fighting. Let things be as they are. After all, Tino becoming stronger is good for everyone. Sven then informs Cry about the chaotic situation happening recently. For some reason, many phantoms have appeared, causing many hunters to lose their lives. Cry suddenly remembers Ark, wondering why he has disappeared during such important matters. Cry comes up with a very clever idea, to suggest sending the Black Cross team to accept the mission at the Management Council instead of himself. One of Sven's subordinates questions Cry's behavior. Why does he just sit around doing nothing while assigning all the work to his subordinate? Sven explains that this has been the guild's way of working for a long time and not to be deceived by Cry's appearance. In fact, inside, he is a real monster. Meanwhile, Gark has many questions about the incident at the White Wolf Cave. The earth veins in that area have not changed. The mana material also hasn't changed. Therefore, he doesn't understand why anomalies appear in the treasure temple. Gark wants to find answers, but Cry makes excuses about being busy and not participating. He feels that there must be someone pulling strings behind this. In another development, a group of people called the Akasa Magic Tower Association is carrying out some mysterious plan. Their leader is the Great Master Magus. His subordinates worship him as their master. He reveals that this device can interfere with the enormous energy flow underground and store power that can transform treasure temples. If the research project succeeds, he could even create his own treasure temple. Master Magus's right hand, a young woman named Sophia, is currently out on a mission. Master Magus believes that after Sophia returns, they will definitely succeed in their research. Meanwhile, Cry is awakened by a nightmare. In his dream, he saw the slime burning down the entire capital. Surprisingly, when he wakes up, he finds Liz has been lying beside him. Liz invites her friend to go out, saying that today's training with Tino will be put aside for now. Cry feels uncomfortable inside, but has to accept his friend's invitation. A while later, Gark personally comes to the Strange Grief Guild headquarters to see Cry. As soon as Liz sees him, she starts causing trouble. She informs him that Cry is busy today and cannot receive him. Gark is angry that Liz left in the middle of a mission without reporting to him. The two sides thus begin to argue loudly back and forth. Liz's hot-tempered nature erupts once again. She kicks Gark straight in the face without hesitation. Gark wants to be patient, but with Liz pushing like this, he has no choice but to fight a proper battle. And so, suddenly, both sides drag themselves into an unnecessary fight. Seeing this, Cry invites Secretary Kaina to his room to discuss matters while the other two are fighting. He shares that he didn't detect anything unusual at the White Wolf Cave. Also, he would never report the lost slime vial. Deep down, Cry just wants Ark to return soon to resolve everything. Because what can a useless person like himself do? The martial contest between Gark and Liz turns the building into ruins. Gark throws a punch down, shattering the floor, while Liz somersaults onto his shoulders to tease him. Gark gathers his strength to prepare to unleash his full power. The destructive force of each punch and kick is extremely terrifying. The guild building is now no different from a toy for both to smash. Cry hurriedly calls for them to stop. Seeing Cry intervene, Liz abandons the fight and comes to hug him. Gark is bitter, but has to accept temporarily stopping the battle. Liz and Cry then go out for a stroll. She complains that Gark has now weakened and is not as strong as before. She then tells him that the remaining members of Strange are still on a mission in Nepalit. They're taking more time because the phantoms there are all level 8. While chatting happily, Liz abruptly leaves to grab a man who has been following them. Cry hurriedly comes to ask if everything is okay, but the man takes this opportunity to escape. Seeing this, Liz assumes Cry decided to spare his life, so she hugs and praises him for his compassionate heart. Returning to his base in fear, the follower doesn't understand why Cry spared his life. Could it be that he did so to gradually face him? The next day, Sven meets with Gark to receive the mission. Gark is furious that Cry continues to delegate responsibilities to his subordinates. Despite his annoyance, Sven is still a very trustworthy person. Gark then assigns them to enter the White Wolf Cave to continue investigating everything there. The Black Cross team subsequently enters the cave to confront the wolves. While the subordinates are getting battered, the guild leader is out having fun with a girl. In reality, Cry does have some responsibility in his work. While hanging out with Liz, he's also surveying an area full of criminals in the capital. Coincidentally, there's also a newly opened ice cream shop nearby, so he and Liz decide to check it out. The follower is stunned when he sees Cry and Liz approaching their base, which has been disguised as an ice cream shop. He speculates that perhaps Cry sparing his life was a trap to find their hideout. He's desperately distressed that this location, just newly established, has already been discovered. Cry truly has a terrifyingly calculating mind. At this moment, Sophia returns to the base and reassures him to stay calm. Meanwhile, Liz is outside knocking repeatedly on the door, about to break it down when Cry stops her just in time. He says he doesn't want to disturb the shop owner like that at all. Then both return to the guild headquarters without accomplishing anything. Cry feels quite uneasy inside. He wonders when Shichai will return. Eva then comes to inform Cry about Sven's mission progress. His team has gone ahead to clear the way, and tomorrow a research team including artifact experts will arrive to carry out the mission. Additionally, she has prepared a list of hunters who will escort the team. In another development, Master Magus's subordinates are extremely worried. They thought disguising themselves as an ice cream shop would help them hide from the world, yet Cry almost barged in. It's impossible to imagine what's going on in his mind. Some other subordinates are tougher. Sophia suggests they should fight, confident because they're currently testing a special defense system, and a high-level hunter like Cry is the most suitable subject to test its power. Magus agrees because if they've been discovered, they have no choice but to fight to the end. Sophia is even more confident since the current number of Strange Grief members is only 2 people, Cry and Liz. At most, there's a third person, Shichai. So she boldly declares that she will crush the alchemist Shichai at all costs. She also reveals that Shichai must certainly know about the existence of Magus's research. The director is very pleased with Sophia's attitude, which is why he entrusts her with all authority to command the minions. The subordinate Felix feels uncomfortable with this decision, but for the sake of the master's noble mission, he will accept it. At the First Step Guild headquarters, many hunters are gathering to prepare for the White Wolf Cave exploration mission. When Cry steps out, he's surprised to see Eva has summoned so many people. According to her analysis, the White Wolf Cave is a place that cannot be underestimated. Therefore, they need to use numbers to compensate. Deep down, Cry wonders where they'll get the funds to support so many people. That's why he proposes cutting down and keeping only the elite team. This information causes everyone to be extremely confused. Such a difficult mission, yet he's requesting fewer people. Eva then informs him that the costs have been covered by the Management Council, so Cry has no reason to refuse. He feels very uneasy inside. If anything happens now, he'll just blame Gark and be done with it. Just when he thought everything was settled, Liz speaks up loudly. In front of everyone, she asserts that this crowd is really of no help except getting in the way. Just one strong person like her going along would be enough to complete the mission. Cry still decides to let all the people below participate. Next, everyone begins discussing who should be the expedition leader. A strong hunter like Cry is naturally the most suitable person for this position. Cry doesn't say anything to agree, so he immediately makes the excuse that he will participate in the mission but will arrive later. Therefore, leadership will be given to the Black Cross team. Meanwhile, Sven's team advances deep into the White Wolf Cave. Suddenly, he receives a report of something unusual. Sven orders his subordinates to blow a whistle to call everyone to leave the cave immediately. A team of hotheads feels very annoyed with Sven. Without any interesting discoveries, he's already asking everyone to leave. Sven believes they should be grateful because his team is in charge of leading the expedition. If it were strange grief, they wouldn't even bother to blow the whistle when danger appears, because they're people who never care about the weak. Sven explains that his strategy is to move slowly but surely and to avoid casualties. If they receive a report of danger, they'll ask everyone to retreat to a safe place to wait for reinforcements. Sven then tells everyone a memorable story about Cry. That day, he told everyone to leave the city to see a flower field. It was as if Cry could predict the future. When they arrived there, the flowers had transformed into a treasure temple. That was the first time they witnessed such an extraordinary transformation. Since then, Sven has always trusted Cry's judgments. Any information he provides must be paid attention to. While the subordinates are on their mission, the God Guild leader just sits pensively in one place. Liz is frantically demanding to be allowed to go on the mission. The feeling of fighting her best in front of Cry makes her feel truly excited. Cry sadly ignores these words. He only cares about stalling for as long as possible, hoping that everything will be finished before he has to depart. Unexpectedly, Shichai returns because she has a bad premonition. Shichai explains that the type of slime she invented is just a defective product, but it has been greatly improved in terms of evolution speed and environmental adaptability. She reassures Cry that he can relax because she had previously made special adjustments so it wouldn't attack the two of them. Next, Shichai begins to analyze how the slime escaped from the vial. Because of its nature of liking moisture, it likely escaped through the drainage system. Cry listens to his friend's analysis in bewilderment, realizing that slime is something that can wander around freely like that. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the White Wolf Cave, Sven is in charge of leading the exploration team. He stands before everyone and asks if anyone has experience confronting slime. The situation is that in a crowd, the number of people with real knowledge about slime is very few, yet most are very confident, even boasting that their power can defeat slime. In truth, in most people's understanding, this is inherently a harmless monster. However, Shichai's slime is clearly not like other slimes, so they have reason to be concerned. The hothead Jen loudly proclaims that there's nothing to fear about slime. Sven coldly warns that he should know his limits. When he becomes the first casualty, then don't regret it. Jen becomes furious, believing that everyone is being too cowardly. Among the crowd, a female alchemist named Talia raises her hand to speak. She introduces herself as someone who works in the laboratory with Shichai at the guild. The two of them have studied the capabilities of slime together. Afterward, Talia takes out a vial and explains that this is a slime-killing potion created by Shichai herself. which can be up to 99% effective. Sven then informs everyone about the battle plan. When entering the cave, if they discover anything unusual, they need to blow the whistle to notify everyone immediately. Members who don't participate in combat will be responsible for logistics outside, and especially must remember to never be careless or subjective. Thanks to Sven's motivational rallying cries, the fighting spirit of the entire team rises, and everyone then enters with a very confident demeanor. At the Akasa base, Master Magus receives a report from Sophia that she has prepared everything. According to intelligence gathered by Sophia, the exploration team at the White Wolf Cave has only 2 notable hunters, along with about 100 other mediocre hunters. With such forces, they will certainly be defeated too easily. By late afternoon, Sven meets with key members about the situation in the cave. It's known that up to this point, they haven't discovered anything important besides the phantoms they found before. The process of fighting them has been extremely arduous. Currently, there are many wounded who need medical care. At this point, Jen comes to cause trouble again. He believes that without Cry's excessive directives, perhaps the mission would have been resolved already. Jen expresses his disrespect for the guild leader because, as the leader, he doesn't even bother to come here to direct. Instead, he just stays far away and gives an unclear warning about some slime, not even knowing if it will appear or not. No matter what Sven says, he can't persuade him to trust in the plan he has laid out. Jen, too angry, goes outside alone. He curses the Black Cross team as just a cowardly team, not believing that someone who just sits in one place at home can predict what will happen in the field. Suddenly, he hears a very loud noise. Curiously approaching, he discovers the Akasa group, led by Philip, having a plan. Philip displays a very annoyed attitude towards Sophia because she is being loved too much by the master. Jen suddenly rushes in alone to attack, kicking Philip away. The evil wizard immediately throws fireballs in response. However, their damage can't harm Jen at all. Philip is then beaten badly. Hose, while Jen is distracted, injects a special solution into the body of a giant wolf. In an instant, it transforms the wolf into a strange liquid substance. Philip explains that this is a phantom with a forcibly magically altered body, and it will crave mana material in high concentrations. The loud noise alerts the entire exploration team. They hurriedly run out to prepare for battle. Jen now runs back to the base to inform someone about the current situation. Indeed, just as Cry warned, the slime has actually appeared. Sven aims at the opponent, and the wizards also unleash their skills on the enemy. But such damage is not enough to hold back the monster. Young Hansi quickly comes to treat General. He now believes that what Cry warned about is correct. The arrows shot by Sven continuously, but to no avail. Temporarily, the only way is to keep a distance and attack from afar to hold it back. Sven runs to Talia to get the vial of counteracting solution. He bravely runs alone to attract the monster's attention. It jumps to attack, and Sven immediately plants the vial where it lands. In an instant, the monster's body explodes, but this doesn't make it disappear. Sven is angry because this thing isn't slime, but just has a similar shape. In this dire situation, Shichai has arrived to assist everyone. She explains that the monster has covered its entire body with a powerful magical barrier. It turns out that earlier, with Cry's approval, Shichai had come to help everyone. Shichai then proceeds to assess the situation. The mana material creating the phantom is being forced to transform itself into magic. Shichai approaches the monster with high confidence. She then throws a vial of anti-mana toward the monster. Sven shoots an arrow that hits the vial, causing the solution inside to escape. In an instant, it causes the monster to vanish into nothingness. Gark now appears with his fancy armor. He explains that he and Shichai had hurriedly moved here. At the Akasa base, Master Magus has received news of the failure. Indeed, Shichai is a formidable opponent. A while later, Shichai meets with everyone to report on the current situation. She announces that Magus is a major threat. He is the one pulling the strings behind all of this. Over time, Shichai has been working alone to hunt down that old man. Treasure temples have appeared with many abnormalities, making the phantom from earlier a byproduct of the experimentation process. Talia speculates that the enemy has prepared many modern pieces of equipment underground. Shichai strongly agrees with this reasoning. She then says she will go to interrogate the wizards that Jen had captured earlier. Shichai expresses concern about the current situation. She has run out of anti-mana, while there's a possibility that more monsters like that will come. However, this doesn't mean they will surrender. Shichai is confident that she can lead everyone to defeat the enemy. Her determined spirit deeply impresses everyone, even though she's not strong in combat. Sven responds that Hansi shouldn't be deceived by Shichai's appearance. To him, she is just like the other members of Strange Grief. They are the real monsters on the battlefield. Meanwhile, at the Strange Grief headquarters, Liz seems to be going crazy because Cry won't let her join the battle, no matter how much she begs and pleads. At the Akasa Tower, conflicting opinions are emerging. Sophia had previously issued directives to release magically altered phantoms onto the battlefield one by one. Philip is furious with this incomprehensible decision. He orders his subordinates to summon Sophia for questioning, but she's currently inspecting the defense system. Philip speaks with a tone full of contempt, considering Sophia incompetent. The subordinates advise him to calm down, reminding him that the master had entrusted her with command authority. However, Philip still demands they release all captured phantoms outside at once. He arrogantly believes that overwhelming the enemy with numbers will help him achieve great merit. Meanwhile, the exploration team is discussing the Akasa group's plot. Shichai knows these two wizards are from Akasa Tower and sets her conditions. If they reveal the location of their base, she'll guarantee their safety. Of course, these stubborn men refuse to say a word. Shichai praises their character, noting they're truly disciples of Noctis Clear. This statement surprises the two wizards. Shichai has been investigating their organization for a long time. Seeing she can't extract anything from them, she switches to using a special potion she created. Using this would certainly pry open their mouths. Some management council leaders express concern about whether this is a poison that could harm their health. Shichai coldly replies that her action is for justice, so bending ethics a bit is acceptable. Gark opposes this view, reminding her they operate on the principle of upholding the law. Shichai responds that she's just scaring the two men for fun. She then drinks the potion without hesitation. Contrary to everyone's concerns, she remains perfectly healthy. Suddenly, loud roaring sounds come from outside. Everyone rushes out to see countless magically altered wolf phantoms. Shichai explains the enemy's characteristics. The phantoms carry a type of magical barrier. To defeat them, they need to determine what kind of magic it is. Initially, Shichai orders shield-bearing hunters to directly confront the monsters. Anter raises his shield to defend as instructed. Next, she requests fire magic users to contain them. From her observations, Shichai begins to identify countermeasures. The phantom's force field rotates clockwise. All physical attacks at close range are immediately repelled. To penetrate the barrier, they need to concentrate continuous fire on a single point. However, their current forces don't have anyone meeting these conditions. Based on the current situation, Shichai believes they can hold off this phantom for at most 1 hour. Before they finish with this one, more monsters arrive. Gark suggests Shichai temporarily retreat to preserve their forces. Understanding the issue, she asks everyone to calmly withdraw. Surprisingly, two phantoms turn and eliminate each other. Shichai explains that these phantoms are instinctively attracted to things possessing large amounts of mana material, and on this battlefield, they themselves possess the most of this substance. This means the terrifying horde of monsters will eliminate each other without the hunters needing to intervene. Talia observes from outside, puzzled why the Akasa Tower people didn't send phantoms one by one. This severe failure makes Magus extremely angry. He blames his subordinates for ignoring Sophia's directives and acting on their own. Sophia seizes the opportunity to mock Philip as incompetent. However, now is not the time for internal conflicts. She reports that the situation at the front line is developing unfavorably. Shichai and Gark themselves are participating in the battle. Sophia warns that his power cannot be underestimated. However, she doesn't agree with the decision to retreat as it would affect the master's reputation. Along with the fact that the hunters are holding 2 of their people hostage, Philip loudly claims that those 2 will certainly not betray them. Sophia also believes so. But even without their confession, Shichai has her own ways to find this place. Therefore, from now on, it will be an all-out battle to see who acts faster. Her plan is to use the Molly's Eder monster to overwhelm them. If they eliminate everyone at this base, they won't need to worry anymore. Though it sounds easy, Magus still has many doubts. Currently, the Molly's Eder monster is in the training process. For it to fight, someone needs to command it. Sophia nominates Philip for this task as a way for him to redeem himself. Philip readily accepts without hesitation. Talia is currently reminiscing about her school days. Back then, she received many valuable lessons from Shichai. Shichai was famous as an alchemist with rare talent. Not only a genius, but also very hardworking. That's why Talia greatly admired, but also somewhat envied her. Sven approaches to chat with Talia, expressing curiosity about why the two wizards have been staring at her for so long. Talia responds that she herself doesn't know why they're doing that. Meanwhile, Gark finds Shichai to share his concerns. Gark believes that with the forces they're bringing here, confronting Akasa Tower is an extremely dangerous undertaking. Accordingly, he suggests she should withdraw. Shichai has a different mindset. She then gathers everyone to present her battle plan. Shichai announces she has found the enemy base based on the concentration of mana material being emitted. The Akasa Tower base must be somewhere around this rock face. The two subordinates are surprised by her high-level analytical skills. They panic and repeatedly deny her speculation. Shichai glances at their attitude and immediately recognizes her inference is 100% correct. The opportunity to resolve the enemy situation isn't plentiful, so they decide to end everything here. Unexpectedly, the two subordinates mention Sophia's name. They even ask her to come and untie them. Shichai then introduces this girl to everyone. Sophia is a talented disciple of Noctis Clear and Shichai's arch-enemy. Although Shichai has tried to hunt her down, she still couldn't catch her. However, this time Shichai carries immense confidence. She declares that she will put Sophia in prison. Elsewhere, Cry's group is on their way to join forces with Shichai. Liz clings to Cry like a leech and throws a jealous fit when Tino tries to hold Cry's hand. Meanwhile, Shichai is leading the team to the enemy base. Suddenly, deadly lightning bolts rain down from the sky. This terrible attack comes from Philip riding on the back of the Molly's Eder monster. With just one strike, he has taken down the majority of the Hunters Guild members. Philip boasts that he will single-handedly send everyone to heaven. However, his joy doesn't last long as Shichai calmly steps forward to the enemy's surprise. How could she take that hit and not be affected at all? Shichai remarks that Philip has been too confident in his own power. The move just now was merely an appetizer compared to what she has experienced. Shichai then takes out a water gun containing elixir and shoots it toward the severely wounded Sven. In an instant, he can leap up to fight with extremely powerful slashes. Molly's Eder blocks the slash and knocks Sven to the ground. Just as it charges forward, Gark arrives just in time to assist. With just one move, he successfully finishes off the monster. On this side, Shichai continues to use her elixir to recover the wounded. Philip fails heavily once again, making Magus feel like he's sitting on fire. The subordinates suggest the master quickly escape, while they will sacrifice themselves along with the remaining Molly's Eder to create a bloody path for him. Magus calmly assesses the situation. Currently, they don't need to leave the base immediately because they still have an ace up their sleeve. He then orders all subordinates to prepare to execute the counterattack plan. Now Shichai has arrived with everyone at the entrance of the cave housing the Akasa base. Gark believes that with just the three of them, they will resolve all enemies. Magus's ultimate weapon is a giant golem. It swings a blade toward Gark, while from above, subordinates riding Molly's Eder continuously rain down arrows. Sven is suddenly clawed very strongly on the shoulder by a monster swooping down. The battle situation is now extremely chaotic. Just at this difficult moment, Liz appears, quickly kicking a Molly's Eder to add to the score. With Liz already quickly joining the battle, now only Tino is responsible for protecting Cry. Earlier, the discovered subordinates had escaped successfully during the chaotic battle. By coincidence, they encounter Cry and Tino. But contrary to their fear, Cry just walks past without paying any attention. Yet Cry's oblivious demeanor terrifies the enemy to death. Thanks to Liz, the power balance between the two sides has somewhat changed. After taking down the minion, she moves on to attack the golem. Gark adds a blow that freezes its entire body. Sven shoots magic arrows at it. However, this monster is no ordinary one as its body is immune to all attacks. Next, it jumps high and fires a laser that hits Liz, forcing her to temporarily retreat. According to Shichai's analysis, relying solely on Liz's power won't be able to defeat the golem. The most reasonable approach now is to stall for time until it runs out of energy. Liz, in a fit of rage, continuously punches and kicks it. Gark adds an axe blow to its knee, but still can't make it fall. At this moment, Cry arrives with Tino, and his presence draws everyone's attention. Liz sadly admits this enemy is too tough. She's somewhat disappointed that she couldn't resolve it before Cry arrived. The golem actively moves to attack Cry. Surprisingly, as it's flying toward him, it's suddenly pushed far back. Everything happens too quickly, and before everyone can understand what's happening, the golem is swiftly defeated. As always, Cry receives recognition for the achievement despite not doing anything at all. Next, when the hunter team enters the Akasa Tower base, all members had already fled some time ago. But at least they harvested spoils, equipment, and enemy documents. Gark wonders what happened to make the golem disappear so quickly. But according to the young man, it just flew away on its own. He didn't do anything. Meanwhile, Cry is discussing the situation with Shichai. He offers to help her deal with these people, but Shichai wants to handle them herself. Magus is informed by his subordinates that Sophia is secretly infiltrating the Hunters Guild. They are certain that the red-haired girl Talia is actually Sophia. Magus begins to feel cold fear because after so many confrontations with Cry, they always come away with unfavorable results. Now the best thing to do is to temporarily suspend the plan and lay low for a while. At the Management Council headquarters, Cry is questioned by leaders about his extraordinary abilities. They really want to know what Cry did to defeat the golems so quickly. Knowing that even if he tells the truth, they won't believe him, Cry says if they want more information, they should ask Shichai. He has given her the authority to resolve this matter. Mentioning Shichai reminds the leaders of an incident 3 years ago. They had gathered enough evidence to prove Shichai, nicknamed Deep Black, was the mastermind helping dangerous criminals escape prison. Shichai should have been prosecuted, but thanks to Gark's intervention, she was found innocent. Meanwhile, Magus's subordinates have successfully captured Talia. Magus tells her she doesn't need to pretend anymore so they can leave the capital together. Talia doesn't understand what they're talking about. She reiterates that she doesn't know who Sophia is. Amali's Etter growls when it sees Talia. Only now do they believe she's not Sophia. At this moment, the real Sophia returns to the base. She appears quite calm when meeting someone who looks exactly like her. Sophia calmly explains why she looks identical to Talia, simply because she chose this person as a model to disguise herself. As soon as she finishes speaking, Sophia removes the wig on her head. It turns out all this time, Sophia has actually been Shichai in disguise. Everyone is extremely surprised. They can't imagine that they've all been deceived by Shichai from the beginning. She calmly explains everything to them, affirming that she greatly admires Magus's intellect and his relentless exploratory character. Additionally, the base has many expensive research equipment and rare materials. This is definitely a valuable resource helping Shichai create interesting inventions. However, all good things must come to an end. She mentions how Cry continuously warned to stay away from them. According to Shichai, Cry has a discerning eye. He can see everything without her needing to say anything. Shichai is very happy because thanks to Cry's arrangements, her weapons were tested through the battle with the Hunters Guild. Of course, she was the one who destroyed that golem. Shichai declares she has achieved all her initial objectives. All the experiments have been confiscated, and these people have become criminals. Hearing these words, Magus explodes with anger. He never expected that for the sake of research, she would dare to do anything. Now Magus understands why she was the mastermind helping dangerous criminals escape prison. Then she steps in front of Talia and offers sincere apologies, making her cry in fear. Shichai then announces that the name Sophia will go into the past. Additionally, from now on, Magus will be known to the world as Deep Break. Philip angrily wants to attack Shichai. However, she simply calls Amali's Etter to her side, which is enough to make him tremble in fear. Magus raises his scepter to unleash an extremely powerful fire attack around him. Thanks to the Mali's Etter using its body to shield her, Shichai is unharmed. Next, she introduces her Shichai slime research. It's something that eats mana material to develop. Magus warns that this will be an extremely dangerous weapon. Shichai certainly understands this, so she wants to experiment with the effectiveness of Shichai slime by letting it attack them. A misty smoke envelops the entire base. Philip, in panic, still thinks of ways to protect his master. Magus hurriedly runs ahead while the subordinates fight Shichai. Magus runs out the door and bumps into a tall figure. The collision causes him to fall down the stairs with a bloody nose. Magus unleashes a fireball, but the person removes their outfit to reveal a muscular body. Shichai explains that she will stop at nothing to become stronger. Creating golems costs too much time and money, so she tried creating chimeras instead. Shichai then reveals she used those escaped prisoners as materials for the new weapon. Next, Shichai controls her favorite creation to rush forward and end everything. The next day, Cry receives news about the Akasa Tower organization. All those people have been arrested, but for some reason, their memories have disappeared. Shichai is a person with great ambition who will stop at nothing. She happily places all her crimes on others to bear. Talia was just an innocent bystander, so she's also lost her memory. As for Magus, he carries all the criminal charges of Deep Black. Additionally, Shichai successfully persuaded Cry to give her the 2 spoils of war, the Golem and the Mali's Eder. Today, the leaders continue discussing how to handle the confiscated spoils of war. Cry requests to keep the Golem and the Mali's Eder. Despite making a direct appeal, he only manages to secure the Mali's Eder for Shichai. Nevertheless, she's very grateful that Cry spoke up for her. Gark later approaches to introduce a recently prominent level 7 hunter. His name is Arnold, from the Neplanub Mist Empire, known as the Dragon Slayer God. Cry doesn't know this name and doesn't care. He proudly declares that his own strength isn't inferior to anyone's, so he has no reason to fear. Gark appreciates Cry's spirited, combative attitude. He then pats Cry lightly on the back, causing his protection ring to shatter. Cry now notices that the year's most important shopping event is taking place. Jabrudia is a national auction event held once a year. Here, most valuable protective items are sold, and this year, the protective gear is superior in both quality and quantity. Cry is eager to hunt for discounts at this shopping festival, but has no money left, so the young man immediately thinks about borrowing money from Shichai. However, he still hasn't repaid his previous loans to her. While worrying about money matters, a beautiful girl approaches to chat. She's Chloe, Gark's niece, who's working at the reception desk today. During their conversation, the Mali's Eder is called to Cry's office. Its appearance has been reduced to resemble a cute cat. Previously, Cry had misread the Mali's Eder's name as Drink, so Shichai decided to use this name for it. Nevertheless, it's not an ordinary pet that Cry can approach. Drink wags its tail a few times, and all the protection rings on Cry's hand are completely destroyed. He begins to feel nervous because he urgently needs to recharge these protective items. Cry asks Shichai when Lucia will return and learns that she and other members are still busy conquering extremely powerful phantoms. She consoles Cry by giving him a special ring, a protective item that can store a single spell. Previously, Lucia had also given Cry a necklace with a similar function. Cry always treasures and wears this gift. At this moment, Arnold and his team arrive. These people are furious because they feel disrespected by Chloe. One team member suggests that by displaying their terrifying power, no one will dare look down on them anymore. Arnold crushes an apple in his hand, agreeing with this aggressive idea. Meanwhile, Cry is being meticulously cared for by Shichai. She takes advantage of every opportunity to press her 2 grapefruits against the young man. However, Cry shows no interest. What concerns him most right now is that many protective items need urgent mana recharging. Without Lucia, it's difficult to find a mage who can do this. Shichai immediately thinks of an extremely clever way to help Cry. A while later, she gathers many guild members to announce something important. Essentially, Shichai will teach everyone a training exercise for mages that Cry recently invented. Cry is confused, not understanding why Shichai is making this up. She exaggerates further by guaranteeing that those who participate in this training could become mages comparable to Lucia. 2 ladies, Lapit and Kitsu from the Starlight team, express interest in this fascinating knowledge. They hold great respect for Lucia. Starlight is famous as a team established by Nobel subhumans. The Nobel race is known for its longevity and possession of first-class magical skills. As soon as Kitsu sees Cry, she makes unpleasant remarks about him. Lapit reminds her teammate to mind her language, as he is, after all, the guild master. Kitsu's style of conduct is characteristic of this race. Those who aren't outstanding mages are openly looked down upon by them. A girl named Marietta volunteers to participate in Shichai's training, and the first task is to fully charge the mana of a protective item. After successfully charging it, she already begins to feel tired. Shichai continues to request that she charge more protective items. Marietta grits her teeth, using all her strength to complete the exercise. After burning a lot of energy, Marietta suddenly faints on the spot, to everyone's surprise. Shichai calmly analyzes the situation for everyone. She introduces them to the concept that a mage's strength is determined by their total controllable mana. Using mana beyond one's capacity leads to magical depletion. Normally, a person over 20 years old can no longer increase their total mana. However, Shichai has discovered a secret that can change this. When mages recover from a state of mana depletion, their total mana limit increases significantly. To prove her point is correct, Shichai drops a few drops of a special solution into Marietta's mouth. Immediately, she jumps up and screams loudly, then collapses again. Shichai confirms that Marietta's total mana has increased. If she repeats this several more times, she'll soon become an excellent mage. Shichai also claims that Lucia became who she is today because she went through a training process full of blood and tears. Shichai then uses provocation to make the two Nobel girls follow her exercise. Lapis and Kitsu reluctantly accept the task of charging mana for Cry's protective items. Following them, everyone begins to experience FOMO and hurriedly follows suit. Thus, through her psychological manipulation tactics, Shichai successfully helps Cry without much effort. In another development, while Ark is discussing business, his handsome appearance attracts the attention of Lady Egeria. The next day, Cry and his female friends invite each other for a grand drinking session to celebrate. Shichai and Liz are actually close sisters, but because of a man, they've become unfriendly with each other, each wanting to claim Cry for herself. Liz claims she knows all of Shichai's secrets, then criticizes the golem Shichai created as not really powerful at all. The two ladies continue to criticize each other's combat abilities. Shichai appears gentle on the outside, but is actually an extremely cruel villain inside. Taking advantage of Liz's inattention, she pours poison into her sister's wine glass. Cry takes 2 glasses of wine and tells his 2 friends to each drink one to make peace. Unfortunately, the glass Liz drinks from is the one without poison. Shichai quickly thinks of a way to avoid drinking the remaining glass. She pretends to be drunk and begins to take the opportunity to move closer to Cry. Liz quickly recognizes this plot and rushes over to give her little sister a beating. While the group is chatting animatedly, a loud noise nearby draws attention. It's Arnold and his people coming to the tavern to cause trouble. A henchman knocks someone down and loudly introduces their dominant power. Arnold aggressively demands the tavern owner to quickly bring wine and women. Liz unexpectedly steps forward with a joyful expression to please him, then soon reveals her combative nature by pouring all the wine over Arnold's head. She then takes the glass and beats him severely. The group members are also easily defeated. Liz laughs loudly, showing contempt because such a weak leader dares to claim to be level 7. After dealing with them, everyone in the tavern continues to focus on drinking merrily. Recalling 3 years ago, when Chloe first participated in the Strange Grief Guild member selection exam, her opponent was a swordsman with the title Absolute God Sword. After supervising the selection exam, she gave up her desire to become a hunter and switched to working as a receptionist for the Hunter Management Association. In another development, Secretary Eva reminds Cry about Nahar, who is not a simple person. He's famous for defeating the Thunder Dragon, and if he causes trouble now, it will certainly create many complications. Therefore, she suggests asking Gark to mediate this matter. Cry is indifferent and doesn't care about reconciliation. What he cares most about right now is the exquisite taste of Thunder Dragon. It turns out that Shichai had once made grilled Thunder Dragon meat for him to eat. The two then move on to discuss Cry's debt. Eva is shocked to hear that the amount he owes Shichai has reached 10 billion. To resolve this enormous sum, Shichai gives Cry 2 choices. She suggests that Cry go to prison to evade the debt. Of course, Cry won't agree with this crazy idea. So Shichai enthusiastically moves on to the second method, which is to agree to marry her. When they become husband and wife, assets will be shared, so there will be no more debt. Cry is somewhat uncomfortable, but now has no other option. He tells Eva that he's ready to marry Shichai. According to Eva's analysis, the way to repay the debt isn't that difficult. The income from his position as guild master is quite substantial. Additionally, if Cry diligently works by hunting treasure temples, he'll repay everything soon. Eva then decides to create an expense management plan to help Cry repay his debt. At the Frozen Guild base, Arnold's people are boiling with anger. They decide that if this grudge isn't repaid, the world will look down on them. Then the whole group storms to the Management Association headquarters to cause trouble. Their noise attracts Gark's attention. However, instead of trying to mediate, he chooses to add fuel to the fire. Gark mockingly laughs that Arnold's people are such losers that they aren't worthy of being opponents to a level 8 hunter like Cry. Gark pulls out a letter quoting Cry's message to Arnold. In the letter, he asks them to catch some thunder dragons for him to eat. After reading the letter, Gark arrogantly turns away, leaving Arnold to embrace his anger. Arnold flies into a rage, determined to deal with Cry at all costs. The group begins to analyze Cry's strength. Basically, he rarely participates in conquering treasure temples, and in the few times he has fought, he always displays extremely magical abilities. Arnold believes that someone like this cannot possibly be level 8. There must be some trick. Until now, he has always relied on teammates to claim achievements. He shows extreme confidence that this duel has a complete basis for victory. Back to Cry, who is now on the balcony catching the breeze when Tino suddenly rushes over. She happily states that she's always ready to meet any request from the guild master. Without hesitation, Cry mentions that his debt has reached 10 zeros, causing Tino to immediately feel dizzy. Seeing this, Cry says he won't borrow money, so there's no need to worry. Anyway, he still has a backup plan, which is to choose to marry the wealthy Shichai to clear the debt. This information strikes like lightning. Tino never expected that Sister Shichai would dare to play so big to monopolize the guild master. The two then go for a walk to relax. Tino tells Cry to go hunt treasure temples to pay off the debt. In his heart, Cry is extremely panicked. He's not stupid enough to throw himself into death. Coincidentally, Arnold's group is also nearby. They give Cry bullet-like stares and ready fists prepared to beat him to a pulp. Cry is quite nervous but still tries to appear cool to avoid conflict, even if it means kneeling and begging them to make peace. Tino doesn't accept that the guild master has to lower himself and humiliate himself like that. She shows a combative attitude completely opposite to Cry's. Tino continuously curses them as incompetent and ignorant, loudly affirming that Cry will beat them severely. After hearing this, Cry can only hide behind Tino's back and repeatedly say, "Friend, can we reconcile, can we?" Realizing that the diplomatic route isn't going anywhere, Cry says he'll accept the duel, but he'll only fight in broad daylight. Arnold doesn't understand why but agrees. Actually, Cry's intention is simply to draw the attention of a large crowd. Perhaps in the crowd, there will be guild members who can help. Arnold loudly declares that he knows Cry's total secret. His level doesn't match his actual strength. He has risen like this entirely by relying on teammates. Tino is very angry when hearing these contemptuous words. She then asks Cry's permission to duel the ringleader one-on-one, originally intending to joke. To her surprise, Cry immediately agrees in a heartbeat. Cry wishes her to fight well, while he will enthusiastically cheer from behind. Tino has no other choice but to bravely charge forward to attack. But the strength difference between the two is too great. All her kicks are easily nullified. When it's Arnold's turn to counterattack, he grabs her head and slams it hard to the ground. After knocking Tino out, he shifts his target to Cry. At this point, Cry has to pull out the necklace that Lucia gave him to counterattack. The magic from the necklace is a wide area suppression attack. Everyone within the area of effect will experience extreme pressure, making them unable to stand up. Cry introduces this as gravity manipulation magic called Terran Order. Arnold hates Cry intensely but can do nothing, forced to watch him take Tino away in frustration. Cry then takes Tino to eat to restore her spirits. Tino has no interest in eating anymore. To atone for her mistake, she enthusiastically wants him to share about high-value treasure temples. Tino declares that at all costs, she must help Cry resolve the 10 billion debt. A while later, Cry has an appointment with Chloe to discuss Arnold's people. Chloe remarks that Cry's reaction doesn't resemble anyone else's. Faced with such a strong enemy, he repeatedly provokes him. Cry also has no intention of reconciling. He asks Chloe to convey to Arnold that he won't forget them. After finishing the conversation about Arnold, Chloe moves on to ask Cry about the member selection exam 3 years ago. Back then, although she suffered a miserable defeat, Cry had commented that she was a candidate with great potential. Yet it was he who failed her at the last minute. In her heart, Chloe really wants to know what she was lacking. Cry ponders for a moment, then ambiguously says that she already has the answer for herself, so he doesn't need to explain further. Besides, that's just a thing of the past. Chloe should focus on her current receptionist job. Hearing this, Chloe doesn't question further and wholeheartedly focuses on doing her job well. Arnold seeks out Chloe to discuss the conflict with Cry. Once again, he leaves humiliated, returning to base with frustration because time after time, his group loses face because of Cry. Despite his anger, he can't forget how extremely powerful that gravity magic was. Cry isn't just strong, but also an extremely difficult hunter to deal with. One of Arnold's subordinates provides information they've gathered about Cry. Indeed, no one in the Strange Grief Guild hasn't been led astray by Cry. They've all grown accustomed to his unusual way of speaking and behaving. Basically, in their eyes, Cry's words shouldn't be taken seriously. In his rage, the subordinate advises Arnold to calm down. The situation is that a major auction is coming up soon. The best thing now is to focus on acquiring valuable new equipment. After all, this auction will certainly have interesting items that their empire doesn't have. Arnold sees the logic in this and decides to temporarily set aside his grudge to focus on hunting for protective items. Meanwhile, Cry and Tino are having an item they recently acquired appraised. The appraiser informs them that this might be an external protective item, something different from traditional treasure temple items. It's likely a product of advanced dark magic civilization. To get a definitive answer about this item requires more time for research. Unfortunately, the auction is happening right now, so they must wait a while longer. Cry shifts his focus to other valuable protective items currently being appraised. While rummaging through items, the appraiser chats with Tino about her current job. He's very moved, saying Tino's image reminds him of his granddaughter, and he also lavishes praise on the Strange Grief Guild. After all, in recent years, Cry has been the highest-ranked hunter. Suddenly, Cry accidentally finds a mask quite similar to his reverse face protective item. Although the design is somewhat creepy, reverse face is Cry's favorite protective item. Just wearing it allows him to completely change his appearance. Cry has used it many times to experience the freedom of wandering outside without needing bodyguards. Sadly, his previous reverse face was damaged by Liz. Just remembering that feeling makes Cry feel numb with pleasure. So at all costs, he must become the owner of this treasure. Cry explains his wish to the appraiser, hoping to serve as an intermediary to deal directly with the owner of this item. The appraiser finds this very strange because the item hasn't even been appraised yet, but Cry already wants to make a transaction. Nevertheless, he agrees to act as a liaison. Cry contemplates his next steps. According to him, the reverse face protective item can be used for illegal activities, so it's usually not sold openly. Additionally, if he meets privately to buy it without going through the auction, the price might be much cheaper. Cry completely believes this transaction is truly too attractive to pass up. Tino reminds him of his large unresolved debt. Additionally, recently Shichai has been focusing on research investments, so she doesn't have extra money either. Hearing this, Cry is at a loss about how to resolve this issue. He secretly wishes there was someone else besides Shichai from whom he could easily borrow money. Just as he finishes speaking, Cry's benefactor appears Ark has just returned to the Strange Grief Guild. Not only that, but he's also brought Lady Eclair to visit the place. Eclair frankly states that she's actually the type of person who really hates hunters. However, the handsome Ark is an exception. Seeing Cry and Tino approaching, Eclair immediately displays a contemptuous face and says unpleasant words. Cry knows his place and just tries to smile awkwardly, ignoring her insults. This clever reaction leaves Eclair speechless. She loses interest in arguing further and leaves in her horse carriage. Just meeting his teammate again, Cry immediately shows a very friendly face. He promptly suggests borrowing money from Ark, but is refused without hesitation. Nevertheless, Cry doesn't give up and uses all his words to emphasize how much he needs that treasure. After talking until he's out of breath without achieving anything, Cry reluctantly moves on to beg others in the guild. This high level of determination leads to everyone's curiosity. Everyone wants to know how powerful that treasure is that Guild Master Cry absolutely must have it. A while later, Cry again seeks out the only person who can help. Shichai happily says she agrees to postpone her research to lend money to her future husband. If he wants the treasure that badly, there's no reason she wouldn't fully support him. Shichai even agrees to be the negotiator in this purchase. Cry happily thanks his friend profusely. Next, he hopes the owner will agree to sell at around 30 million, which would be perfect. Surprisingly, the person coming to deal with Cry is Arnold and his accomplice. The two who were fighting fiercely just days ago now face each other at the negotiating table. Shichai performs very well in her role as negotiator. She tries to manipulate the other party to pay as little as possible. Arnold himself doesn't know the true function of the mask. He asks Cry to clarify this, but Cry refuses to provide accurate information. Cry only vaguely states that the item is a dangerous thing, and even the country's laws restrict its use. Arnold sees Cry's suspicious face and thinks he's really bad at negotiating. However, upon careful thought, he believes Cry is a schemer planning something to harm him. Perhaps he's using reverse psychology to make Arnold try to keep this dangerous item. Based on this, he arrogantly believes he's read through that insidious plan and agrees to exchange with Cry at a very cheap price of 10 million. Cry immediately agrees to this 10 million price without hesitation. Just when they thought the transaction was complete, a crowd of people arrives to bid. Everyone believes the mask must be very valuable for Strange Grief to care so much about it. They continuously bid higher prices. Suddenly, Eclair appears, declaring that she will be the owner of the protective item. A while later, Cry expresses his frustration to Eva. Who would have thought things would go so far off track? He had expected to own the mask at a cheap price, but ended up losing it. While feeling down, Shichai arrives with good news, saying she has prepared a huge savings to fight against that little lady. This money was originally for her wedding with Cry, but using it now is fine too. On the other side, Eclair is equally determined. She expresses her anger toward Cry and affirms she will do everything possible to bring back the strongest protective item for Ark. The arrogant girl declares she definitely won't lose to a commoner. As a noble, she won't allow herself to let a favorite item slip through her fingers. Shichai calmly analyzes that Eclair's budget is limited to 100 million. Meanwhile, Shichai has up to 200 million. If Eclair can't prepare more, the result is clear. Eclair reluctantly goes to ask her father, the Count, for more money to participate in the auction. The amount they prepare could reach over 1 billion. Regardless of their opponent being the unpredictable Cry, this time they must certainly win to maintain face. On the day of the auction, there's some disappointment because her total budget is exactly 950 million. According to Shichai's guess, their chance of winning this time is only about 70%. Liz proposes a backup plan for Cry. If they lose the auction, she'll directly steal it for him. Despite both ladies agreeing to use any means necessary, Cry himself doesn't show much enthusiasm for this matter. He's already prepared mentally that they will fail at today's auction. If he incurs more debt, Eva will go berserk. This auction attracts many participants. Tino and guild members are also curious to see how Cry will bid. The guild master feels it's not appropriate for him to directly show his face. Therefore, he decides to ask Tino to represent him in the auction. Cry's #1 opponent, the elegant Lady Eclair, has also arrived. Today's auction features many interesting protective items. Cry really wants to buy them, but his wallet is too tight. Too many good protective items have been regrettably missed. Cry feels like going crazy because he has to save money for the mask. The shopping addiction surrounds Cry's mind, making him lose self-control. Therefore, Cry is determined to play his trump card to grab the remaining protective items. Coincidentally, the next item brought up for auction is the giant Akasa golem that the Management Association had confiscated earlier. Cry suddenly remembers this is what Shichai desperately wants. Its starting price is 30 million. The amount quickly multiplies many times, dazzling them. For Shichai, besides its functionality, this golem is a memento that she put a lot of effort into creating. Although she really wants to have it back, the wealthy lady is willing to take a loss this time to support her man. While feeling utterly disappointed, Cry encourages her by participating in the bidding. The amount has now reached over 300 million, making Shichai's face unhappy. She fears that if Cry goes all in this time, they won't have money left for the mask. Shichai actively advises Cry to stop bidding. She no longer feels the golem is worth that much. Cry shows that he really understands and cares for her. He can't bear to let Shichai watch the golem fall into someone else's hands. Cry then reveals that he has gathered a large sum to bid for that golem, so she shouldn't worry too much about money. The final price is settled at 1,060,110 million over the initial amount Shichai prepared. Cry now pulls out his trump card that he had prepared. It's a banknote with the figure of 110 million. Shichai holds it in her hand, deeply moved, and promises to return this amount to him soon. It turns out this money is from Lucia, which Cry had borrowed, so the young guild master's debt grows even larger. After winning the golem, Cry has emptied his wallet. He casually leaves in the middle of the auction, even before the mask is brought out. Of course, Cry doesn't surrender so easily. Upon returning to the guild headquarters, he personally seeks out Ark to make a deal. Cry explains to him that the mask is a very dangerous item. Although he can't explain clearly, he hopes Ark can understand. In Cry's mind, he's figured out a way to own it without spending too much money. It's 100% certain that after successfully bidding for the mask, Eclair will give it to Ark, so he simply needs to persuade Ark to sell it back at a friendly price. If he says the mask is a dangerous protective item, Ark will definitely believe and agree to sell it back to him. At the auction, Eclair won the reverse face for 200 million. However, the Count lady doesn't show any joy like her daughter because Cry had already left the auction early. The lady believes this victory of theirs isn't glorious at all. Eclair takes the lesson from her father and begins to feel stupid herself, spending 200 million on a creepy mask without even knowing its function. While feeling nearly dead from disappointment, suddenly a voice rings out. Strangely, this voice comes from the mask. It says it has witnessed many negative emotions from her. Those emotions will transform her into a very suitable subject for it to bestow power upon. Next, it introduces itself as one who gives hope to fragile bodies. Any weakling who wants to possess power, it will come to fulfill. Eclair panics, remembering Cry's warning earlier. He had once affirmed that this mask is a very dangerous thing. Who would have thought this casual remark would accidentally be accurate? At this moment, outside the guest house, the Count Lady is receiving Ark and his team. Because Cry had previously warned them about the mask, the group decided to wear armor and bring weapons when meeting Eclair. A loud noise alerts everyone's attention. Ark and his teammates hurriedly run in to see what's happening. Indeed, Cry's warning has become reality. Eclair is controlled by the mask and has become insane. She's destroying the house and knocking out guards in the castle. Seeing more people arriving, Eclair flies into a rage. Her body emits dangerous dark magic, dramatically increasing her speed and physical strength. Ark maintains a calm mindset and approaches Eclair to negotiate. Eclair has now regained control of part of her mind. She excitedly introduces that she has won the strongest protective item to give to him. Ark appears very happy and suggests she remove the mask before continuing the conversation. But things aren't that simple. Eclair continues to explode with dark power to threaten everyone. Next, she picks up a sword and directly attacks Ark. On this side, he also wields a light sword to respond. Two great powers directly clash against each other. In another development, Arnold's group is celebrating because they've just easily earned 200 million. Unexpectedly, they encounter Liz and Shichai, who actively come looking for trouble. Shichai says she's here to ask them for 100 million. To increase persuasiveness, Shichai brings out a bottle of antidote. It turns out that during their victory celebration, the beer glasses they drank had been poisoned by her. If they obediently hand over the money, they'll continue to live. Arnold is extremely angry, but eventually has to grit his teeth and negotiate. A while later, Ark's team returns victorious, welcomed by a small celebration party hosted by Cry. Ark hands the mask back to Cry and doesn't forget to warn him that it's truly very dangerous. Cry holds it in his hand and observes very carefully. He still firmly believes this is a reverse face with a modified design, making it so creepy. Eclair comes along with Ark to apologize to Cry. The whole group then stares in astonishment as Cry has already put on the mask. However, nothing terrible happens. The strange mask confirms that Cry is an extremely useless subject. All his strength indicators are negative numbers. Moreover, his fighting will is also 0, so he doesn't meet the standards to activate its combat state. The mask is heavily disappointed and automatically leaves Cry's face. Although it's not a reverse face, Cry is still very interested in keeping it as his own. He thanks Eclair and invites her to join in a small, cozy party. Going back to Tino's past when she was still a well-behaved little girl, the bakery owner praised her for being skillful. At just 11 years old, she already knew how to do all sorts of tasks. He also reminded Tino to be careful because recently there had been a group of rogue hunters doing bad things. Unexpectedly, on her way home, she encountered exactly that group. Frightened, Tino ran away but was caught because their purpose was to kidnap children to sell them. In this dangerous moment, Cry happened to pass by and accidentally knocked over the kidnapper's bottle of sleeping potion. Other members of the Strange Grief team also appeared. Having just completed their new masks, their movements were somewhat clumsy. But even knowing this was the recently famous rookie group, the two kidnappers didn't care. Just as they were about to attack, one was taken down in the blink of an eye, and the remaining one, equally incompetent, quickly fell as well. Cry still didn't understand what was happening, while the two cruel hunters fled in fear, not forgetting to threaten they would return for revenge. After the danger passed, Cry worriedly asked Tino if she was injured or had lost anything. The Strange Grief group had become too famous for always breaking all the rules. When asked, Tino suddenly remembered her brooch had disappeared. Cry told her to let them handle it and sent her home. For our protagonist, everything was quite simple, just report to the management association since those two were also hunters, and that would be fine. After recounting the story of Tino's kidnapping, Mr. Gark asked if they remembered the characteristics of the perpetrators. He also questioned why they didn't bring them here directly. Cry explained that he wasn't sure they were truly bad people since they only took the brooch. Moreover, everyone wore masks without eye holes, so they couldn't identify them. After hearing this, Old Gark could only sigh because without information, how could they search? Currently, they could only temporarily accept the report and hand it over to the Night Association to handle. Cry immediately asked what if those people came back for revenge. The old man just smiled and said if they came, do whatever you want, and he would take responsibility. So that's why the Strange Grief group was so unruly, they had someone backing them up. Sister Kenna really liked the youngsters' style, believing they were a righteous team with the potential to lead the management association in the future. Going back to the two individuals who were thoroughly beaten by Strange Grief, they were discussing revenge plans due to punishment from their superiors. The big one came up with the idea that if they couldn't fight back, they might as well lure Strange Grief to work for their organization. The skinny one found this reasonable and agreed to try. At this point, Tino was still going everywhere to tell guild members about the story from years ago. Cry had heard it so many times that he remembered when those two invited him to a mysterious organization, and he agreed. Because the Strange Grief group was known for being lawless, a major misunderstanding occurred. The kidnappers thought they also specialized in kidnapping children for money and asked where the goods from the other day were. Cry thought they were talking about the monster they had just hunted, so he answered that they had already dealt with it beautifully. Hearing this, the two were shocked to their core, not expecting this group to be so violent. Afterward, they led the group to the hideout of the organization specializing in kidnapping children. The place was filled with foul smells and was suspicious, but Cry remained calm as if nothing was wrong. Of course, Lucia recognized the voices of the two villains from before, but because she wanted to see how her brother would handle it, the group followed without saying anything. At this point, the boss of the criminal group wanted to sign a business contract with Strange Grief. The pay was extremely generous, only requiring them not to make things difficult for the organization. Cry initially said he still needed to think about it, so he was invited to see some rare goods. As soon as the curtain was pulled back, they saw all the kidnapped children. Despite being strictly monitored by the authorities, there were still ways to smuggle them out. Their goal was to develop into a giant human trafficking organization. Cry asked what would happen if he refused, and as soon as he finished speaking, he was shot in the head. However, the red-haired young man not only was unharmed, but also rushed in to cut off the hands of the two kidnappers, boasting that the masks they wore were special items made by Cry. They were thick enough that bullets couldn't penetrate. Since they had Gark's protection, they were free to kill all those bad people. Lucia and Liz easily broke the necks of several soldiers. Bullets were easily blocked using Lucas's wooden sword. Amber, as the tank, stood to shield the kidnapped children. Shichai went big by throwing homemade bombs, causing those villains to explode into pieces. Just like that, the entire gang was wiped out by Strange Grief in an instant. Cry coincidentally found Tino's brooch and brought it back to help her. The next day, news about the destroyed human trafficking organization became the center of attention. All kidnapped children returned home safely. After being called by the management association, the group thought they wouldn't face any consequences since they did a good deed after all. At this time, little sister Tino also came to take statements, so Cry took the opportunity to return the brooch, making her cry with joy. Thus, the whole group took a commemorative photo together. That photo later became a treasure carefully kept by Tino. Today happens to be the 5th anniversary of being rescued by Strange Grief. That's why she brought out the old photo and story to show everyone. A few days later, Cry was led by Tino to a treasure temple they had previously explored. Before that, Tino had discovered a very suspicious hole and thought there might be good items below. Upon careful observation, they found nothing unusual in the area. Cry immediately apologized to Shichai for dragging her into something useless. She smiled and said this was the habitat of sand rabbits, so they still needed to follow for protection, even though these were the weakest monsters among magical beasts. Meanwhile, Tino asked permission to jump into the hole to check. At this point, Shichai revealed that this hole was originally dug by the golem that Cry had bid on earlier. Below was another base of the Akasa Tower group, and the entrance was disguised as a sand rabbit nest. Since they had come all this way, they decided to go down and take a look. However, just as they finished speaking, a strange sound came from nearby. They thought it might be a monster or something dangerous, but it turned out to be a person. After introductions, they learned his name was Aliko, nicknamed the Scholar Rabbit. They were a secret society specializing in studying the behavior of sand rabbits. He also boasted that during today's trip, he had accidentally discovered something extremely shocking. Meanwhile, Tino was still enthusiastically digging without knowing the danger right behind her. The special discovery Aliko mentioned was a giant sand rabbit cave. It's hard to believe that such small rabbits could create such a large nest. According to their belief, this species has superior intelligence and is building an underground civilization. After hearing this, Shichai could only yawn because it was clearly the lair of the Akasa group. To celebrate this great discovery, Aliko planned to make grilled rabbit meat, but the other two found it too disgusting and declined. While returning to the surface, they heard desperate cries for help. It turned out Tino was being chased by a giant sand rabbit. Aliko was excited, believing this was the legendary Rabbit King, so he wanted to catch it immediately. Cry didn't understand how there could be such a large rabbit, but Shichai enlightened him it was a magical beast. Returning to the guild, Cry received many letters and wanted to ask Eva to reply for him. Basically, he wanted her to reject everything to avoid trouble, which made her throw up her hands because this guy always acts like he's busy when he's actually doing nothing. As for the model toys on the table, they were indeed interesting. Originally, the ring that Tino found the other day was a protective item that helps create illusions within a 120 centimeters range. Cry even teased Eva by creating a giant face that startled her. At the same time, at the secret base of the Akasa Tower group, Liz and Shichai were interrogating some dishonest individuals. But despite using all sorts of tricks, they still couldn't extract the necessary information, suspecting these were Red Hunter smugglers. Someone behind the scenes was secretly manipulating the research institute. Liz asked what to do with these people because it seemed Shichai needed research materials. If not, she suggested turning them into punching bags quickly. As for Tino, she was being consoled because she unexpectedly encountered the giant sand rabbit there. Seeing her so pitiful, Cry decided to give her a protective item as thanks for the illusion bracelet. Just as the two older sisters returned, they agreed because this girl was still too weak. Seeing Tino hesitate because she was afraid of relying on protective items, Liz scolded her harshly. How could someone who was chased by a sand rabbit until her pants fell down dare to say such things? Tino burst into tears, not expecting Shichai to tell her master everything. Seeing this scene, Cry thought he could give her an item to enhance her strength. But no one could have expected the protagonist to pull out the cursed mask. The two sisters showed interest, while the black-haired girl was horrified because this thing was too disgusting. Cry affirmed it was very effective because even a weak lady who wore it could fight on par with Ark. Tino struggled but helplessly had this demonic thing stick to her face. As a result, as soon as she put it on, she immediately grabbed Cry and started cursing the two older sisters. She called Liz a short dwarf and Shichai a snake-hearted villain, telling them to get away from the guild master. Hearing this, the two sisters were furious, not expecting the little girl to think of them like that in her heart. The next morning, Gark called Cry to personally assign a mission. The old man informed him that this mission was specifically designated for Cry by the Lady family. It's rare for a family famous for hating hunters to do this. Although the job is somewhat dangerous, the reward is very generous. Cry immediately suggested giving the job to Ark, but was cursed out by old Gark. If he doesn't complete at least one mission in the next 3 months, he'll be expelled from the Management Association. Moreover, in the previous Wolf Cave incident, he gave all the credit to someone else. How bitter is that? Until now, no level 8 hunter has ever been expelled for not meeting quotas. This is the last chance, so Gark decided to have his niece go along to make sure. Cry said he needed more time to prepare before deciding. On the way back, he accidentally met a strange-looking couple. They said they had something to discuss and pulled him into a restaurant, while Cry had no idea who they were. The blue-haired one spoke first, requesting that he withdraw from this case. After handling the Akasa group, Cry had nearly reached level 9, but Akasa was originally their prey. Eliminating the remnants like that was considered an unethical action among hunter associations. After hearing this, Cry could only smile awkwardly because he didn't understand anything. Mary advised Aaron not to say tense words, but the blue-haired one continued to emphasize that no one could outsmart Strange Grief, so it's best to go straight to the point. He believed the development speed of the currently strongest team was too fast, but in terms of experience, Cry was still far behind other level 8 hunters. If he reaches level 9 too early, he might face trouble. Although he didn't understand anything, Cry called Aaron by name and nodded in agreement to withdraw. Honestly, he had no interest in those remnants. He also vaguely guessed that Liz and Shichai must have caused some trouble again. Right at this moment, the Howley Fawthine group came looking for trouble. Cry continued to pretend not to recognize them, making Arnold furious. He also reminded them that if they wanted to fight him, they should first defeat all the members of Strange Grief. Seeing those people being so unreasonable, Aaron stepped in and told them to stay away from his guest. He also asked Cry's permission to handle this matter himself. They declared themselves members of the Hidden Association, led by the strongest level 8 hunter in the capital. Seeing trouble coming, Cry quickly excused himself to go to the bathroom to escape quickly. The young man also used a protective item to transform into Ark's face and ran freely on the street. Everyone found it hard to believe could Ark possibly have a twin brother. When he returned to the guild, Eva happily announced that they had just received an invitation to attend the 100 Swords gathering. This is a conference hosted by the Emperor himself. Although their guild was previously ignored because Cry's friends were all troublemakers, after major events, the Emperor has now taken notice of him. After hearing this, Cry cursed, asking what kind of unlucky day this was. He then hurriedly excused himself to go on vacation for a while, saying if he returns in time, he'll attend the 100 Swords gathering. After hearing the young man's invitation to go play, Liz and Shichai quickly agreed. For the location, they decided to go to Lucas's association in Nepali. As for investigating the Akasa group, they left it to the 2 girls from the Hidden Association to handle. So Liz asked everyone in the guild if anyone was free to go on vacation with the guild master. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and quickly found excuses to decline, from stomachaches to attending grandmother's wedding, to being busy having an affair with an ex-lover, so they asked to be excused. As for Tino, after cursing the 2 older sisters, she only dared to hide in her room. Unfortunately, Liz had barged in, demanding she get her butt up, or she would throw her out with that messy appearance. Shichai brought along 3 new slaves to serve, demanding they greet the guild master, but all remained silent. The result was they were electrocuted Cambodian style to cure their insolence. Afterward, everyone was as obedient as puppies, introducing themselves as white, black, and gray. Tino, now brought by Liz, begged to stay behind because she knew this vacation would surely be full of dangers. On the Hao Lei Fa theme side, they had just received news that the protagonist had left the capital. The branch head of the Management Association also hurriedly called his niece to lead people to chase after that guy immediately to deliver the mission paper. Thus, 2 level 4 members were invited to go along, only to encounter comrades from Hao Lei Fa theme. At home, they had received news that the Hidden Association had declared war on the remnants of Akasa. Everyone cursed Cry like a dog for tricking them once again, leaving them to face this disaster. After a day of travel, Cry's group stops to rest. Tino is forced to play tag with Liz or face 1,000 push-ups. Liz demands the pink-haired girl hand over a toy to boost her movement ability. Meanwhile, Cry takes out the mask from before and asks Tino if she wants to borrow it, but she's so frightened she gets shocked unconscious. Shichai assures everyone it's fine since she has plenty of recovery medicine. Cry can only sigh, thinking this kind of play during vacation is truly dangerous. That evening, the young man strictly forbids the 2 ladies from training during this time, no physical exercises or Shichai's potion brewing. If they're on vacation, they should enjoy it rather than train. Shichai thinks the guild master is doing this to help them get used to prolonged life or death battles. Cry hears this and doesn't know how to explain. At the same time, 2 groups of vehicles in pursuit have begun to approach. Chloe feels lucky to be traveling with the Hao Lei Fa theme team because there are many monsters on the road. The others boast about defeating a thunder dragon. According to information Chloe provided, Strange Grief is in Iran. To reach Lady territory, they must definitely pass through Iran. Gark thinks Strange Grief will pay dearly for everything. On the other side, Shichai has brought Cry to a hidden house with all necessary supplies. She's cut off all information connections in case of emergency, so they won't be discovered. The monsters are left for the 3 slaves to take care of. Just then, Liz finds a secret room filled with various potions made by Shichai, including sleeping potions and stimulants. There are also strange undergarments that make the little sister furious. While the group is having fun, the sky above begins to behave abnormally, with lightning striking continuously. Based on experience, Tino knows that whenever she goes out with the guild master, something is bound to happen. Although Cry reassures her there's no life-threatening danger, the younger sister still feels worried. Just as he finishes speaking, a large lightning bolt strikes, causing the entire area to catch fire. The city immediately sounds the alarm, but Cry sees it as a natural phenomenon and isn't too concerned. Liz asks if they should go check the situation, but Cry refuses, saying staying put is safest. In his mind, he thinks that since they're on vacation, any trouble should be handled by the Night Association. Actually, the consecutive lightning bolts are the consequence of the lightning-attracting potion that Shichai set up in the morning. At the same time, the Howlei Fa theme group has also arrived. A soldier runs out warning them to leave immediately before being struck by lightning. He points to the sky where an object called a lightning star is flying. No one understands why this thing has appeared here, but clearly, it's stronger than the thunder dragon they once destroyed. Arnold suspects Strange Grief has played some trick. He tells Chloe to step back, believing Cry will soon appear to handle it. However, the other two object because they are also hunters and cannot run away. As for our protagonist, he's currently relaxing in a bath, not caring about what's happening outside. The battle becomes increasingly fierce as the level 4 hunters are nearly powerless against the lightning star's strength. Nevertheless, the Howlei Fa theme team still believes in their big brother. Arnold decides to ride his horse straight toward it, then jumps up to strike hard at the thing, creating thunder and lightning. The next morning, when Cry's group steps outside, they only see a pile of ruins. Hearing the story, Liz eagerly wants to fight, but is forbidden by Cry, so she has to stand still. Thanks to the intervention of high-level hunters, the city only suffered property damage with no injuries. On Arnold's side, he just learned that while he was resting, Cry had already left, even leaving praise that the Howlei Fa theme team was truly formidable. And thanks to them defeating the lightning star, he could enjoy a good night's sleep. Hearing this, Arnold is so bitter he punches through a stone table. All that effort chasing and fighting hard, while that guy just slept. He believes Strange Grief had predicted their plan and deliberately ignored this incident. Meanwhile, Cry is being fought over by the two pink-haired sisters, both wanting to sit next to him. The younger sister Shichai claims that genetically, her older sister isn't compatible with the protagonist. The opponent retorts that they're not any different since they're blood sisters. Additionally, Shichai plans to lure out a group of monsters for Liz to destroy so she can stay close to the guy. With no other option, Cry intervenes to stop the argument and incidentally throws away that dangerous potion bottle. Tino wonders why they're going to Gara, and it's explained that the place has very delicious sweets. Cry is trying to overcome his fear of sweets and wants to try Paffet cake. Liz hates such sweet things, so only the pink-haired younger sister will participate. Hearing this, Tino panics, thinking what the guild master mentioned is a code name for some terrifying monster. Speaking of the monster summoning potion that Cry threw away, it has begun to take effect. By afternoon, when the protagonist's group enters the city, they find it packed with hunters. Shichai inquires and learns that a herd of orcs is gathering at a nearby mountain. If they attack the city, it would be very dangerous, so they're urgently calling for reinforcements from elsewhere. Hearing about monsters makes Liz interested, while Tino realizes that the Paffet the guild master mentioned might be those dangerous orcs, so their purpose in coming here must certainly be to fight monsters. Cry then interrupts this train of thought, saying tomorrow they'll go eat chocolate Paffet together. The other two don't like sweets, so they encourage Tino to go along because this is a rare opportunity. However, while saying this, their eyes glare at the girl jealously. That night, hearing the orcs howling, the two super monsters suddenly feel excited. So the drink girl and the high-class chimera immediately rush toward them to slaughter. The orcs were preparing to attack the city but unexpectedly got ambushed. Thus, the drink girl and the high-class chimera finished off the entire bunch. Seeing these two so vicious, the leader hurriedly tries to retreat to save his life. As for the guy who caused all this, he's at home enjoying himself. Tino still misunderstands that the guild master is about to make her go fight. At the same time, the Howlei Fa theme team has just arrived here. They accidentally pick up the monster summoning potion bottle, thinking it has lost its effect, when the entire herd of orcs runs toward them. They were being driven by Shichai's two monsters and were so frightened they turned around like this. Arnold sees that this whole group is injured and orders everyone to be cautious because something is very strange. Right after, the monster's eyes suddenly turn red, signaling bad omens. Meanwhile, Cry is sitting at home eating ice cream. Seeing the younger sister muttering to herself, the young man has to ask what's wrong. At night, Liz, as usual, sneaks into the guy's room to sleep over. Unexpectedly, the younger sister also emerges in a fresh outfit, demanding no one-on-one action. Liz scolds her sister, asking how she managed to get in here while bathing. It turns out she's been monitoring the protagonist's actions all along. The young man doesn't care about their argument and just rolls over to sleep so he can go eat sweets tomorrow. On the other side, in the midst of misfortune comes more misfortune. Suddenly a fire star appears, burning the entire herd of monsters. It's even stronger than the lightning star, making things quite tense. Arnold is very bitter, thinking that disrespectful guy is playing him. The next morning, as planned, Cry takes Tino to the restaurant. The younger sister anxiously looks around, wondering where the orc herd is. Cry finds this strange and praises the younger sister for doing very well in the training session with Liz. Surprisingly, she really likes her master, despite often being tormented. As for Shichai, she occasionally has excessive circuit issues but doesn't bully at all. Probably only the guild master is vicious because he always takes them into dangerous places. Tino boldly asks when the orc herd will appear so she can prepare mentally. Before Cry can explain, several people in the restaurant talk about how the herd has been driven away completely. Hearing this, Tino realizes she was foolish for not believing the guild master. The hero group that destroyed the monsters is now being cheered by the people. They're all tattered but still alive, which is a relief. Arnold is still bitter that just by chasing strange grief, they encountered both a lightning star and a fire star. By coincidence, Cry's group also passes by, so they take the opportunity to watch the commotion. Seeing Arnold, Cry whispers to Liz to sneak away quickly, but she refuses. She jumps up and taunts them, asking if the battle was too difficult. Even though it was just a herd of orcs, for country bumpkins to manage that is quite good. Seeing Arnold getting furious, Cry quickly pulls his group away, saying he's too tired already. The Howley Fawtheen team is held back by the city sisters flirting with them, preventing them from giving chase. According to Shichai's calculations, they will have difficulty catching up, so it's fine. Cry is a bit worried, so he decides to change direction to another road to be safe. Hearing this, the two sisters show signs of joy. But Tino screams in terror because she knows that place is a monster nest. On the way, Shichai's two pet beasts continuously destroy any creatures blocking their path. People rumor that in this area, there's a monster species called dragon. There's almost no information because few have encountered it and returned alive. Hearing this, Cry is a bit worried because outside, the three slaves are screaming miserably. Liz wants to go out and fight, but because she's under training restrictions, she's quite bored. Hearing this, Cry immediately permits her to fight freely as long as they're monsters. The pink-haired older sister immediately rejoices and invites Tino to join, while the protagonist again takes out the cursed mask and asks if she needs to use it. Tino fearfully screams and runs outside, leaving everyone else stunned. After a night of intense partying, things have turned out like this. Currently, there are two roads ahead, but even at a glance, it's clear that the road with the clearly marked arrow is a trap. No normal person would walk straight into a nest full of monsters like that. Unfortunately, Cry decides to follow that path because it seems easier to walk on. Behind them, the Howley Fawtheen team has also entered this dangerous road. Due to continuously encountering troubles along the way, Chloe believes this is a series of challenges arranged by Strange Grief. Cry always makes members of the Strange Grief Guild train rigorously to develop. The friends who went with Tino last time also nearly lost their lives. By afternoon, Cry shows excitement because no monsters have appeared yet. If everything goes smoothly, they could cross this mountain today, but since they're on vacation, he decides to camp right there. Recalling old memories, Cry feels quite happy and goes with Liz to get water. The younger sister, seeing she can't be next to her brother, shows signs of sulking. Just as they reach the water, the pink-haired older sister quickly throws a spear to catch a giant fish for dinner. Afterward, Cry sits and combs her hair, making Liz extremely pleased. Having loved the young man since childhood, Liz turns to kiss him. However, a large explosion suddenly occurs on the other side, forcing both to hurry back to check the situation. The Chimera rushes in to attack, but the enemy is too strong with just one hand. It can block the attack. Tino tries to sneak attack, but also fails. Fortunately, Liz appears in time to support. Otherwise, they might have lost their lives. Upon inquiry, they learn this creature is the dragon. The reason there are no other monsters in this area is because this is its territory, and that beautiful road is a trap created to lure prey. The opponent throws a giant rock toward Cry, but Liz immediately uses one hand to catch it. Angry that this creature dares to attack her future husband, she kicks it extremely hard, sending it flying far away. The ground below even leaves a long burn mark due to the tremendous impact. Shichai reveals that this elf species has extremely high recovery abilities, so physical attacks are completely useless. If Amber and Lucio were here, they could handle it, but in the current situation, they must retreat. Meanwhile, the monster has quickly healed its wounds. Arnold's group has now discovered the challenge message, "Catch me if you can," left behind. Although they know the right path is safer, how could they swallow this frustration? Currently, the dragon is still chasing, but it hides itself too well, so they can't determine its exact location. According to information Shichai has, it really enjoys torturing its prey before killing. Therefore, the best way is to use multiple baits to slow down the pursuit process. Hearing this, Tino turns pale. Does this mean using her as a sacrifice, or worse, those 3 unfortunate slaves? If they don't want that, their only option is to use a special potion to lure other monsters, distracting the dragon and stopping its pursuit. However, this method is quite risky because there's a 50-50 chance of being attacked first. Cry still calmly smiles and says to go ahead, making Tino's heart nearly stop in fear. Finally, the group is attacked for real, but still escapes thanks to Liz's overpowered fighting ability. Tino cries because the guild master is always so reckless. Cry walks up and offers the mask, saying it's better to keep it to enhance fighting power. Suddenly, at this moment, the drink girl becomes angry with the 3 remaining unfortunate people. One person has to go get water to serve the group, but upon returning, they discover the key to their collar is now in Cry's hand. The dragon stands high above, still monitoring every movement of the group. Recognizing that the Hao Lei Fa theme team has appeared nearby, it silently praises Liz and Arnold as formidable strong opponents. The dragon begins to recreate the ultimate illusion technique it once used to lure the big young man in the group to chase after it. This monster's scheme is to make the 2 strong ones fight each other while it enjoys the benefits. Realizing Arnold's group is approaching, Liz just smiles, thinking to herself that those people are indeed easy to provoke. Just then, the elf transforms into Arnold's shape, surprising Cry. It doesn't look very similar, but since it says it's Arnold, the young man believes it. He even asks why it's gotten so thin, making his friend speechless. As for the sword it usually wears, the monster claims to have thrown it away because who needs such a weak weapon? Seeing how it hates him, Cry affirms this must be Arnold, so he hurriedly apologizes, saying the recent incidents weren't accidental but intentional. Seeing the monster getting angry, he's so scared that he has to bow his head in apology. He hopes the other won't be so jerky anymore because it looks too disgusting. This sentence happens to be overheard by the real Arnold, who curses him, thinking Cry is insulting him. He's so bitter that he rushes in to strike but ends up being pushed back. As for the monster, it's about to escape when its plan is exposed. Blocked by the 2 pink-haired sisters, it transforms back into its elf form, and Cry finally realizes he's been tricked. Tino witnesses the guild master being threatened and very much wants to fight, but doesn't have enough level, so she's hesitating. As a result, when Arnold strikes down, Cry has to stand up to shield the younger sister. Once again pushed back, Arnold doesn't understand and demands Cry draw his sword to fight back or use magic to counterattack. The reason the guild master doesn't fight is that he always puts his trust in his teammates. Hearing this, Tino gains more motivation and rushes into battle. Knowing she has no chance of winning, she desperately uses the mask. But this time when she puts it on, Tino has gained control. She tells the mask it's just a tool and shouldn't order her around. Tino's new superpower is now enough to fight on par with level 7. But the end result is still being thoroughly beaten by that guy. The next morning, waking up, she's told by Cry that her body still isn't used to the new state. As for the dragon, it was defeated by the 2 pink-haired sisters. Although it regenerates no matter how many times they kill it, Liz pushed it over to the Hao Lei Fa theme team to handle. So it will be a long time before they can chase after them. Tino apologizes for being too weak and not able to do anything. The young man doesn't blame her but praises her for becoming stronger. Liz also lost many battles before becoming as strong as she is now. Hearing this, Tino promises to try harder and wants to join Strange Grief in the future, which Cry agrees to. She also takes the opportunity to ask if the protagonist has ever been defeated, and learns that he hasn't. On the other side, the dragon has finally been subdued. Chloe realizes that everyone is getting stronger while chasing Cry. The Hao Lei Fa theme team has also achieved many more military exploits, so she increasingly believes this is a 1000 challenge setup by Strange Grief. For the next location, if Cry's group wants to go there, she likely knows where, so she also gives directions to Arnold. After arriving at the castle where they were supposed to be staying, they don't see their friend anywhere. With no choice, the young man has directed everyone to change direction to go to a hot spring. Arnold's group, in pursuit, is completely unaware of this. When they step in here, everyone is afraid because this is a treasure temple that was once conquered by the strongest team. Arnold believes Cry is inside, so he plunges in to search without realizing he has entered a level 8 treasure temple.